So, I used to be big into tier lists, and it's time to update them for 2025. I'm Cosmo, and here is my opinion-based Dimension mod tier list for all the Dimension mods I played with in 2025. Keep in mind, I played these all in the context of larger mod packs in most cases, which I will talk about when ranking the mod. I will also talk over placement changes based on what can be done with the mod and what I've seen done, just for the funsies and to encourage people to use these mods to their full potential. Our tiers are going to be the same as last time. Avoided, which are ones I actively avoid if I see them in a pack. Mid, which are ones I don't feel super strong about either way. Alright, which are ones I don't really mind playing with but am not particularly excited for. And finally, amazing, which are my favorite ones I played this year. Starting us off in the bottom of the avoided tier, we have Deeper and Darker, specifically the dimension it adds, the other side. Safe to say, I'm not a fan. The generation very much so feels like a reskin of the Nether, and a lot of mobs aren't very original either. I get it may be a play on the whole other side thing, meaning things are a warped version of the overworld in many cases, but I feel the point still stands. I'm also not a fan of how this mod tends to be treated in mod packs. The Warden is almost always included as a boss, but it's never rebalanced to properly be one. You'll be lucky if it doesn't completely slime you on the first interaction. Not a fan of this mod as a whole, and when I spoke to a few friends, this seems to be a relatively common sentiment. I wonder what it would be like if it was handled better within a mod pack, or even just interacting with it in vanilla. I don't know, I feel the Warden is just a very flawed boss in general, because it's not meant to be one, you know? And I'm not saying it can't be one, I'm saying it needs to be balanced properly to be one. And in our top slot of our avoided tier, we have the Bumblezone. Not dead last this time. It's unfortunate really, as I love the concept of this mod, but I don't find I'm a fan of the execution. I like that the generation, while being similar to the Nether, is different enough to be noticeably unique, and I love the B-mounts and armor, but the dimension as a whole is a nightmare to travel if a mod pack requires it pre-Elytra, and the structure locator that comes with the mod was unreliable, at least it was when I last played. Though this may be different now, and we have the Explorer's Compass in most packs nowadays, so the point may be a little moot. Starting us off in the mid tier, we have the Midnight. Kind of funny. I want to add the majority of the dimensions that are in this tier are just not good unless they're played individually, played with you starting off in the dimension, or are severely altered. The Midnight is lower because of the Rift guys yoinking you and your pets, depending on what mod pack you encounter it in. Aesthetically, it is really cool, and it's worth noting it's still an in-progress mod, but I've yet to see a good application of it. You're almost never going to go into the Midnight undergeared, and the gear from it just isn't good enough as a reward. I just want to see somebody do something cool with this mod. The Abyss is also here for similar reasons. Aesthetically, it's really cool. Practically, not great. I place it above the Midnight because it does have gear that is better than Netherite, so there is an actual reason to go there even if you're already geared up, even in most modded settings. But you don't have to gear up to be able to like, subscribe, and leave a comment for the algorithm. W transition, I know, I'm the greatest at it. I also have a Twitch, a Discord, and if you want to support me further, you can join the channel as a member, though it is 100% not required. If you do that, you get access to videos early. Anyway, back to the tier list. Topping the mid tier, we have Astra, because as cool as it could be, it's just not there yet. I love the content in the mod so far, and I love that it's more friendly for players that don't enjoy tech, but the planets all feel incredibly empty. I hope the planets themselves get revisited with more content. Aside from that, the space stuff is incredible, and I do enjoy interacting with this mod in most cases. I think it just gets a more neutral placement because it feels like it's suffering from early No Man's Sky syndrome, because it's a very ambitious mod and it's just not quite where it could be. In the bottom of the alright tier, we have our first dimension that comes from a mod pack, the endgame mining dimension from Deceased Craft. I wanted to place it higher, I really did, and objectively, how you get here is awesome. You have to fight your way down an overrun lab structure to get to this portal at the bottom, slaying hundreds of zombies in the process. However, the dimension itself is a little underwhelming. The big boss mobs there are terrifying looks-wise, but most of them don't have unique attacks and don't actually wind up being as threatening. I can't wait to see what changes it receives in the next update. I hope it makes it more lethal, and overall just more worthy of how intimidating it feels to actually get there. Up next, we have the Ocean Dimension from Abyssal Ascent. I specifically want to rank it as the version that's in that mod pack, since the dimension itself is meant to be a base for mod pack devs to do what they want with it. If you're in the Abyssal Chasm from Alex's Caves, it is so cool, but if you're unlucky and you wind up in the biome from Aquamarine, you will just freeze to death. Overall, the combo of this plus the chasm is peak. I drop it down because the other biomes are just simply not near as cool. Next, we have what may be a bit of a controversial placement, the Aether. I played it in a few different packs this year, namely Reminiscence and Rebirth of the Night, and in Reminiscence, the bosses were infinitely more frustrating frustrating because of the limited movement. Overall, the mod feels very dated at the moment, and though I know the base mod will not receive major changes, I would love to see a fork or overhaul mod that does redo the bosses. Feel free to leave any mod suggestions that do similar stuff to that down below. I know Deep Aether is pretty cool, and I've seen a couple other mods that add new bosses, but I don't know of anything off the top of my head that actually changes the core bosses, specifically the Sun Spirit. I hate that guy. If you want to know why I did make a boss tier list, you should go check that out. Up next, we have both the Everbright and the Everdawn from Blue Skies. I love Blue Skies. I think the bosses are overhated and actually pretty well designed, and the dimensions are aesthetically pretty well done. Biome variety is nice, and the generation does feel rather unique, but I'd love to see it pushed further. I also think in most cases, Blue Skies is not properly balanced in the packs it's put in, though I've encountered some packs that do make it shine, notably Craft to Exile 2. With its default restriction on gear trying to force you to interact with its intended progression, but often not being good enough in comparison to vanilla gear to warrant doing this, I drop it down a bit, and the Aether does the same thing, so I don't really know actually, it's just something to think about. I completely understand why a system like this would be in place, and I love that it's there as like a config option, but unless you're spawning in the Blue Skies dimensions, it kind of feels pointless, and with Blue Skies you are intended to start in the overworld and then go there. I don't know. And ending off our alright tier, we have the Undergarden. This mod I'd place lower, around where the Midnight is, if I didn't see how much it could shine thanks to Abyssal Ascent. The gear from this dimension is mid, unless you're starting off there, and I feel it isn't often tweaked or treated properly in mod packs. Abyssal Ascent is the first pack I've seen that does it well, and I hope to see more packs in the future that scale it properly. I also don't think it connects that well with vanilla, since the highest armor tier is about on par with Netherite or slightly worse. At first when I saw this mod, I kind of just thought of it as the Nether but green. And to be fair, it kind of is the Nether, but green. But the generation in it is a lot more layered than the Nether, and as you play more with it, you notice the differences a lot more. At the bottom of the amazing tier, but in third place overall for the whole tier list, we have the Twilight Forest. While I feel this mod does show its age in some places, I still feel it holds up very well in comparison to a lot of others. It has similar issues with the armor tiers not being impactful, as they're almost never balanced correctly, but if you start a world and force yourself to complete the Twilight Forest first, it is genuinely amazing. I almost always find the bosses from this mod fun and unique, though I would like to see some structure variety in the future, since a few of the dungeons are just labyrinths in different fonts. It's definitely a bit of a drop considering it topped my tier list last year, but I still hold it in high regard. In second place, we have the Skull Caverns from Society Sunlit Valley. This is a mining dimension meant to be an adaptation of the Skull Caverns from Stardew Valley, and as someone that fucking loves Stardew Valley and also loves roguelike elements, this is one of my favorite dimensions I've interacted with all year. Society itself is such a good mod pack, and I highly recommend it, but this dimension just scratches something in my brain, and it is so fun. Running in there to get ores, kill mobs, and explore caves. Dude, I really am a goblin. Got the brain of a goldfish if you put like flashing lights in its face. Ooh, shiny. Topping off the tier list, we have one thing I think may be a bit unexpected, and that is Lost Cities, but not base Lost Cities. Specifically the customized version we see in Deceased Craft that's used as the entire world's generation. With completely custom generation and structures, this is the most fun dimension I have ever encountered. It makes Deceased Craft stand out significantly, and playing it feels incredibly unique as a result. As we all know, I'm a certified loot goblin, and these buildings have tons of loot inside. If you haven't played Deceased Craft, it's a modern take on a zombie apocalypse, and I highly recommend it. To be honest, I feel like most of this tier list could change based on what configurations are used, what mods the dimensions are paired with, and many other variables that I just can't account for. Regardless of ranking, all these mods are available for us to play completely for free, and a lot of mod devs do their work as a hobby, often seeing little to no financial return for development. It's important to remember that their work is still worth checking out, no matter what some random fish boy on the internet thinks of it. What are your thoughts, dimension-wise? Next year, should I include overhaul mods for the vanilla dimensions? Should I make a separate tier list for like biome overhaul mods? I contemplated adding a couple of different biome overhauls for the Nether in the end, but if I ranked all of the Nether overhaul mods, I would probably put almost all of them in F tier. I decided to not include any for the sake of time and simplicity. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you are enjoying yourself this holiday season. If you are seeing this when the video comes out in December, this is one of the videos in my holiday series where I have been releasing 2 videos every week for all of December to thank you guys for getting me as far as you have. I mean, a year ago, I had just hit, I think, what, 1,000 subscribers? Like, this is crazy. But yeah, YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so maybe give it a shot. Thanks, bye-bye!